The Cambridge Dictionary describes a vampire as a dead person who comes back to life and sucks blood from other people at night. Britannica calls vampires creatures, often fanged, that prey upon humans, generally by consuming their blood. And Merriam-Webster says that vampires are the reanimated body of a dead person, believed to come back from the grave at night and suck the blood of a person asleep. And the word vampire seems to have its root in a Mediterranean language. The earliest reference to this word comes from a Slavonic language with the word vam, meaning blood, and per, meaning monster. The Transylvanian idea of vampires has its origins in the Far East. Tibetan Mongols, like other Oriental cultures, believed in vampires and bat gods. Records of the Chinese vampire, Jiangxi, date back to 600 BC. The creature kills others to absorb their qi, or life force, usually at night, while during the day it rests in a coffin or hides in dark places such as caves. In old Slavic culture, one way to recognize a upir, or demonic vampire-like creature, was to have an innocent child ride a horse through a cemetery and have them indicate the grave of any that may be hiding there. And a upir could be seen in a mirror in the evening, so people would avoid looking in mirrors after dusk. And there's a number of ways that one can become a vampire. There's a famous and feared vampire slayer named Buffy that says in order to become a vampire, they have to suck your blood and then you have to suck their blood. It's like a whole big sucking thing. And there are a few contenders for the earliest female vampires. Lamia is a female or hermaphroditic demon found in Greek mythology who devoured children and seduced men. In later classical times, she became an early prototype of the vampire. A Greek poet named Stesichorus wrote that Lamia is the daughter of Poseidon, the god of the sea, and the mother of the sea monster Scylla. Lamia's beauty caught the attention of Zeus, who seduced her, and they had several children together. However, his wife Hera was angered by his infidelity and killed her children at their births. Driven mad by her grief, Lamia set out to kill other children in a form of revenge. And Lama's outer beauty began to reflect her inner hatred and anger. She transformed from a beautiful woman into a creature, becoming half woman, half serpent. In an attempt to appease her, Zeus gave her the gift of prophecy and the ability to pluck out her eyes and replace them, so she would not have to look at herself. Lamia would creep into homes at night, steal infants from their cribs, and torment sleeping persons. Her act of killing babies and snatching infants from the womb ensured that other mothers would feel her pain of child loss. And in later classical literature, Lamia joined up with Empusa, a demon who may have been the daughter of the goddess Hecate. She began to be portrayed as someone with the power to transform into a beautiful woman, lure young men, seduce and lie with them, and then drink their blood. And her taste for blood makes her one of the oldest figures from mythology, who shares the characteristics of the modern vampire. Lilith, also called Lilitu, is a woman in Mesopotamian and Jewish mythology, thought to be the first wife of Adam and an early demon. Lilith was banished from the Garden of Eden for not obeying him, and then would not return to the garden after she had sex with the archangel Samuel, who, in Talmudic stories, is the accuser or adversary, like Satan in the Bible, but who also destroyed sinners. Lilitu was considered to be an anthropomorphic, bird-footed, wing or night demon, and was often described as a sexual predator who subsisted on the blood of babies and their mothers. In Mesopotamia, Lamashtu, a daughter of the sky god Anu, was a female demon or goddess who murdered women during childbirth and, if possible, kidnapped their children while they were breastfeeding. Then she would gnaw on their bones and suck their blood. Then, as the printing press got going and literacy became a thing, most of the early vampire stories were about guys. But what might be the first literary vampire story in 1797, there was a female vampire in the poem called The Bride of Corinth. It's about a Christian woman who was forced to become a nun in order to stop her from marrying her lover, who was a Greek pagan. Her grief drove her not only to her death, but to become a vampire and stalk her lover every night. And the first novel containing a female vampire was Carmilla from 1872, which was first published in a magazine out of London called The Dark Blue. Carmilla preys on young women, causing an epidemic in a Styrian town, while she seems to fall in love with the young lady who she feeds off of. And this story went on to inspire other authors to write their own vampire stories, like with Bram Stoker's Dracula. So as to who was the first female vampire, or what was the first female vampire story, who knows? There were a number of ancient libraries throughout early history, like the one in Alexandria, that held tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Some were destroyed by accident or neglect, and some by invading armies with foreign religions that wanted to wipe out the histories, mythologies, and religions of other cultures. And there may have been the most wonderful and frightening stories about vampires and other creatures of the night that were written on these scrolls that have been long lost and now forgotten, which is a shame. Regardless, I do love these stories, and I'm always looking forward to new ones. Good night.
Excusez-moi.